So unfortunately for you all, I have a new favorite phrase. And unfortunately for me, this is the current sentiment of the internet. So I guess we're all out of luck. That's it. That's my intro. Hey, I'm Amanda. I'm professionally curious and I talk for a living, and you're watching Swell Entertainment, the channel where I tell you about whatever I'm obsessed with every week. And today we are talking about the phrase, did the journal factory explode? This is my new favorite line. There's a lot of different stories that we're going to talk about within this umbrella, because I do think that so many of the things that we're going to talk about would be solved if someone was journaling, engaging offline, had a group chat to discuss things in, okay? Some perspective on a situation. And unfortunately, in the current day, everything is very public, okay? And everything is recorded. There's a lot of talk of, Gen Z being, extremely awkward and anxious for any perceived slight or anything like that, because they know that 3-second interaction can end up ruining their lives. We see this daily. We see this with celebrities. We see this with content creators. We see this with authors. We're going to talk about that in a second. And I don't think any of the instances that I'm going to talk about in this video happen in a vacuum, because nothing does, especially on the internet, especially now. It's all connected. Okay. I'm serious though. The things that I'm going to talk about, these are instances that you could argue could be their own videos. One of these topics I was going to make a dedicated video on, and then I talked myself out of it, and I do feel more comfortable including him in this topic, because this topic, one, it does fall under that, but also I feel less like I'm dogpiling on the situation, because a lot of people are talking about him. There is a lot to talk about, and I do have a lot of feelings on it. I think there's a lot of parasocial discussions that we can have with all of these stories that we're going to talk about as well. And I'm sure when this video comes out, there will be another 3 that have been discussed. But really quick, let me take a second to tell you about the sponsor for today's video, Rosetta Stone. As you could see from the rest of this video, I literally just got back from Japan, and I am so glad that I have been using Rosetta Stone, because I was way more prepared this time around than I was last time I went. Rosetta Stone is a language learning app that helps you actually use a new language in real life, not just memorizing words. They use a dynamic immersion method, immersing you in your target language from the start, learning through context, visuals, and repetitions, just like how you learned your first language. I'm really interested in this personally, because I'm not just trying to learn Japanese. I'm really into how learning a new language in adulthood can be great for your brain, and this helps make it feel more natural and intuitive over time. I especially love how their true accent speech recognition is done with native speakers. It doesn't just give you instant feedback on pronunciation, you're practicing alongside real speakers, training your ears and your voice at the same time. Very intention of traveling back to Japan in the future, and I would love to be close to fluency by then, and Rosetta Stone is helping me do that. If you've been thinking of learning a new language, whether for more meaningful solo travel or as a new hobby, get started with Rosetta Stone today. You can get my exclusive discount by clicking the link in the description box or scanning the QR code on screen, and get started in any of their 25+ languages. Arigatou gozaimasu to Rosetta Stone for sponsoring this video. I feel strongly about a lot of these things, and I do want to talk about them. So let's start with, again, my new favorite phrase, did the journal factory explode? So we have this video here from Jason, and this was a comment on someone else's video from Bookish Polly. Funny enough, this is a Bookish account making this comment, because it's going to be relevant later. I have never dated and/or loved, LOL. And Tris7 / said, did the journal factory explode?
Let's break this down, right? So basically what this guy is saying is that, like, you need a personal diary and you shouldn't be sharing this shit on the internet. You can use this in, like, real human conversation. So if someone says something that's like, I don't need to know that, you just say, did the journal factory explode?
I don't know if Tris is the one that made the initial video. I don't know what the initial video was. I remember seeing this comment, and I'm sure this video will go into it more, but this is my favorite line, did the journal factory explode? And it's something that I will be utilizing more, because it's something as well that I've discussed of I'm not going to be coddling grown adults. I think it's also, this falls under the bean soup, the context collapse of things. I like waffles. Oh, so you hate pancakes. I have coffee in the garden with my husband every morning. It's a nice little thing. Not all of us have a garden. Some of us are broke and can't have coffee in the morning. Married? Okay, I'm allergic to love. How dare you? Did the journal factory explode? Like, it's so good. Me encouraging y'all to, try solo traveling within your means. Try small, start small, to not wait on others to live your life. A lot of you are really upset about that video. And that's fine. You're allowed to be upset. I put that on the internet. I know not everything's going to be well received. In that one, it's not like a big serious issue. That one was just kind of, I was like, okay, Sure. The bean soup, for those of you that missed it, was that have never heard me reference that. Bean soup is a reference to a recipe video that a woman made for when a woman is on her period, okay? And it's a soup that is a bean soup that is like super dense and, you know, high in iron, because sometimes when you are on your period, you're losing blood-like material. It's not quite blood, but like you get my point. And, you know, that can affect the rest of your body. And so this is something to help replenish that while you were on your period. And so she did then a follow-up video answering questions from the comments. And one of the questions that she finally answered in the video was, what if I don't like beans? And bless her heart, she did try to answer that. Because if you don't like beans, the answer is, this is not for you. That recipe, oh, I don't like beans. What if I don't like beans? Then you scroll along. Did the journal factory explode? Unfortunately, does fall into that. Let me give you an example, okay? Because I'm someone, I don't date, okay? I really don't. I'm not into it right now. And I have my own reasons and feelings for that. But I also, you know, come from a family of divorce, a very messy divorce, okay? And an instance where, you know, I have friends that a lot of whom are getting married, and I'm very happy for them, or they've been married, okay? Now imagine if I'm scrolling TikTok and I see someone getting engaged and I comment, she's going to leave him. He's going to leave her. You're destined to be miserable. How dare you? You know what I do if I see something I don't agree with relationship content-wise now? I scroll away. Now, there is also the element, okay, of the my husband sucks content. I've talked about this a lot. There's a video from last year, bad relationship content. This triggered a lot of angry emails. I talked about the concept of sharing about your partner doing something shitty to the internet for whatever reason, and people saying, girl, leave him. And inevitably they don't. We get a follow-up video about, you don't know our relationship. It's like, okay, well, we didn't know your relationship. I don't know you. You posted this video for whatever reason, and you got a response that was likely of, hey, this is insane. In some instances, these videos, they include, I don't know what to do or whatever. They wanted attention for some reason, because that's why you post things on social media. I want you to engage with this video. I'm posting it. You wanted attention, okay, for whatever reason. You felt you had something to say. You felt you had something to share. You felt you had something to impart or educate people on. That's why you posted something. And then people respond how they respond, okay, and then you don't agree. Something I've seen in the last 6 months is a change in those comments. It's not, girl, leave him. It's, don't share this with us if you're not going to leave him. One was butter dish. The butter dish. Around Christmas time, there was a video that was posted where she said, on day 3 of silence, because I bought my boyfriend an Xbox for Christmas, or husband. It may have been husband or boyfriend. They live together. And he bought me a butter dish. One of the comments was, let me guess, you love him. We don't know your relationship. And despite this, you're not going to leave him. And I think the girl replied, well, yeah, I'm not going to leave him. It's like, okay, why did you bring us this way? And it also changed to people being like, well, obviously he bought you a butter dish because you're a butter dish girl because you're staying. You brought us into your relationship because you shared this. Now we're dealing with this response. You know, that's what happens. The answer here was, again, did the journal factory explode? Because I'm not going to sit here and say, let's go to therapy. I am in therapy, but I understand in the current climate, a lot of people don't have jobs. You may not have therapy. We do have options, okay? But like, I understand. There's this other thing as well for did the journal factory explode that I think is also something that a lot of people forget in that concept as well, okay? Which is when you put things on the internet, they can go away from you. When you share things on the internet, they can be there forever. They are permanent. And you don't know how people will respond to that information or bring it back to you. And as someone that overshares, one of my books one day will be titled Adventures in Oversharing, 100%. I've been locked in on that since I was a high schooler. In 2018, I did a video about someone being assaulted, okay? And I shared details of when I was assaulted. And even in that moment, I was like, I don't want to bring this up, but I feel like it's relevant. It's something that I can bring up. And I share that experience of someone putting their hands around my neck and assaulting me physically, not sexually. I shared that story because it was relevant, okay? And I forgot about it because it was a part of my life. In that instance, I very much knew what I was sharing, okay? This is what happens when you don't have a script. I didn't complete this thought. I brought this up in this video because I was trying to make a point about how 2 years later, in 2018, is when I made that video and I shared that detail. And now I've talked about it a much more, so this is past this point. But I forgot that I had done that. And then in 2020, when my channel took off and I started getting requests for interviews for podcasts and things like that, I had someone bring up the fact that I had been assaulted. And it was something I'd completely forgotten that I had shared. And it was very jarring in the moment. And I was in a place that I was not healed as I am now. And it was very jarring and traumatic to have that brought back up. Now, this person didn't mean it in a negative way. They were talking about how I, share parts of my life into videos. And I'm not 22 anymore, okay? But at the time I was, and I was not in therapy yet. And it was very jarring in that moment. And that is also a reality when you share things on the internet, is that you might be confronted with it later. For a lot of people, traumatic experiences, especially whether you're in therapy or your time has passed, you are in healing, whatever, trauma becomes daily realities, or trauma becomes just a part of your personal history, okay? And that's something that happened with me. I've been no contact for a decade, okay? Fun fact, that last video, the solo travel video, it's this week as I'm recording this. That video made my abuser contact me. If you're watching this one too, fuck off. It's a fact of my life. It doesn't affect me in the same way that it does. I've done a lot of healing. I've done a lot of work, okay? And so there are times where I share something in a conversation that for me is just a part of my history. It's just a part of my life. But to people who weren't around me at the time or weren't there, that is a very traumatic statement to hear. And yes, it was traumatic growing up, but I've learned to live with it. It just becomes, sometimes when you have so much shit, it just piles up and you just get used to it. It's like, oh, that's the normal. That's my normal. But it's not normal for everyone, okay? So my friends and I titled it Sharing the Worms. It was me and my friend Anarchy, because there would be times where I would reference something and she would just go like this, because I rocked her world somehow, okay? Because I had shared something and I was like, what's going on? And she was like, what the fuck? Because it's for me, it was normal. And for her, who, it wasn't. It was a horrifying realization that someone that she knew, that she thinks is well-adjusted, had gone through. And so we call it sharing the worms, okay? And now in Twitch chat, when I'm about to share something that might be traumatic, we say, hey guys, here comes the worms. Why do we call it sharing the worms? Because for me, again, it's just a fact of my life. It's something that it's relevant to a conversation for whatever reason. So I bring it up, or I include it. Okay. Sometimes not subconsciously, because I'm saying it out loud. It's not necessarily trauma dumping, but it's relevant. You know what I'm saying? But it does fall under trauma dumping in a sense. And we call it sharing the worms because you throw it into a conversation the way that a toddler shows you the worms that they keep in their pocket. Because a toddler with a lot of pockets, why wouldn't they have worms in their pockets? They have a lot of pockets. They're going to put things in them, and they found worms. So why wouldn't there be worms in their pocket? Of course, if you, an adult or someone who's not a toddler, go, oh my God, lots of pockets, because you're talking about pockets, toddler then shows you the worms in their pocket. Now toddler toddles off because it's a toddler, but now you, the other person, has to deal with the pile of worms that is now in front of you. And so that's why we call it sharing the worms, because whether intentionally or unintentionally, you have now just, put this onto another person or shared this with another person. Now, again, there is a time and place for this. There's people for this. I do think lockdown, for a myriad of reasons, has made a lot of things worse. Let me reworkshop that for a second. Include this, William. But like this is, because I do think this falls under that. But also, I was on Tumblr, I grit so much of my teeth on Tumblr, but that was so private. Your face wasn't attached to that the way that it is in the comment sections of a TikTok. There was a level of removability and a level of correction that could happen on Tumblr from elders in fandom spaces if you were like, I like this character because my parents are divorced and da-da-da-da. It's like, okay, hey, so that's not for here. That's not what the space is for. And so you correct that without your face attached and your name attached. But now it's like everything's attached and it's public. This is going to sound like a fucking tangent, but I don't think some people realize the emotional labor that can put onto other people. It's something that I've had to work on. It's why I now disclose if I'm going to share something that I think could be even vaguely traumatic to someone else to hear. Because for myself as well, before I had this word for it, when I was in college, before YouTube, okay, I was over at my friend's house. She was living at home. And this was a friend that had grown up alongside me for a lot of, the worst parts of, my experiences with my parent. And so we were laughing about a couple of different things because there was something, again, relevant conversation. For us, it's the reality. This wacky parent. Yeah, this is psychotic. This is crazy. She grew up with those text messages. She grew up with seeing these results from me. And yes, these things were traumatic. And yes, these were me crying at school. But I was at the point where I was just like, yeah, I'm pissed off now. Now I'm over it. Now it's funny because what are you doing? You're an adult. We were telling this and we're joking. And all of a sudden I feel a touch on my arm and I get turned around and it's my friend's mom and she's crying. And she puts her arms around me and she holds me and she's like, I'm so sorry. That is not how mothers are supposed to talk to their children. That is not something mothers are supposed to do. And that, I'm looking at my friend and she's like, and I'm like, thank you. I understand. I'm okay. I'm not, but I'm okay. It was a real world example of, yeah, hey, this horrifying thing that I have now rationalized as being my normal is fucking traumatic for other people. Okay. And unfortunately, that's something that instance, and I don't wish anyone to have to go through that, but it's something that unfortunately, when missing, makes it so that you think it's okay to dump these things and share these things, traumatic, horrifying, otherwise, onto a stranger on the internet. Just last night, as I'm recording this, we were live on stream and we were watching a video from another YouTuber, okay? I'm not disclosing who this person was, but if you go watch the stream, you'll see who it is. But we were watching them about something that is happening in the news right now. And we were looking on, because someone in chat was like, oh, so-and-so made a video about this too, so we were reacting to it and pausing and discussing and things like that. And someone in chat said, I don't trust this because this is a so-and-so video. And I paused and I said, why? Okay. And I said, because if it's a factual thing, like this person, this woman creator has factually been incorrect or whatever, then sure, we can totally, let's discuss it. And then I get it. However, this is someone who is openly in this video literally discussing anecdotes from articles that she was showing on screen. And I mean numerous articles about these instances, clearly not pulling things out of thin air. Especially the segment we were watching was let's go through the facts and was openly going through these articles but in different cases of this incident. What the fuck are we talking about then? And I was like, if this is just because you don't like this woman for whatever reason, which you are allowed to do, you are allowed to not like everyone, that's fine, then that's one thing and that's not relevant here. Because it's not. And sure enough, because a couple other people chimed in this is why I keep her at arm's length, whatever, okay? For whatever reason, okay? I was like, yeah, a lot of that just sounds like a lot of misogyny that's thinly veiled with the internet. Sure enough, this person then said, yeah, it's personal things or whatever. I'm taking it out on this person or whatever. And I'm openly admitted that. And I was like, okay, cool. This is not the place for that. You having problems with women in academia, that is not the problem of this chat. That is not the problem of this YouTuber. And then they said, yeah, I'm just going through a lot right now and I'm externalizing it in chat. And my mods immediately leapt on that and was like, okay, we don't know. This is not the place for that. Amanda is not your friend. I'm not going to let someone just insult women or criticize a woman for the sake of the fact that they're having a bad fucking day. That's not the point here. We're not doing that. And again, did the journal factory explode? What we were talking about, there was zero relevance to that whatsoever. And there's a lot of instances that I feel like, did the journal factory explode? It's not necessarily trauma dumping. It's instances of you needed to workshop this thought. And also, this is not fair to the person that you were talking about as well. So Tyler Catastrophe. Some of you may have perked up as I said that name. And I was going to make a video on Tyler and I decided against it. I was going to make a video because I felt the content was very concerning, mainly because as someone that is a creator, the way that Tyler talks about Wilbur Soot, who is a disgraced YouTuber, I guess you could argue, not someone I like, but also a musician. Tyler was focusing in on the musician part and also a YouTube part or whatever. The way Tyler spoke about Wilbur is how I have unfortunately seen some of my stalkers speak about me. And it brought up a lot of stuff for me, and I was like, oh, I'm really freaked out and concerned. Tyler is a fan who sees himself seemingly, based off his wording, above other fans of Wilbur. And therefore, he's different. And there is a non-zero chance that Wilbur will want to date Tyler, because he had been on the Lovejoy, which is Wilbur's band, the Lovejoy fan podcast twice, and had been recognized by other fans at numerous shows. The story changed. Originally, it was like a 7-minute conversation 2 years ago or something like that. And Tyler thought, oh, I don't get nervous around anyone. But I was like blushing and nervous with Wilbur. Yeah, that's a celebrity crush. That's extremely normal. Tyler putting his feelings in like a different category, even for himself. It's like, no, this isn't parasocial. And it's like, okay, well, no, that is. And that's the concern, is that you don't see that it is. That's where my concern comes in, is the belief that it's different because it's you. And it's something that I have experienced. And the answer is no, it's not different because it's you. You're not different. Another instance we're going to talk about, this happens a lot, unfortunately, with me, with men, with my male audience, because I've talked about very openly how I will not date a fan and I will not date like another creator that's a talking head creator and things like that. Unfortunately, a lot of men in my audience think that it's like, okay, well, if she just met me, if I got in front of her, it'll be different because I'm different. And then it's not. And then they get irritated. That's happened a handful of times, and it's too often for me to ignore it. You know, it's uncomfortable for everyone involved. Thankfully, it's never turned aggressive. But I can see the exact moment where I or my friends are like, we need to get me the fuck out of here. And it happens. And that's the problem. You're not above the program. You're not above the fandom. You're not above the concept of being a fan. Like everyone to some capacity is a fan of something. So it's very interesting. During lockdown, when my audience was first taking off, okay, I got to 100,000 subscribers by April or May of 2020, okay, when I had started that year with like 6,000, I dealt with a lot of entitlement from my viewers. A lot of the restrictions that I have on with fan interactions now are in place from that time because everyone had time on their hands. And I get it. Content creators, I wouldn't have the audience I have, my job that I have, if you weren't watching this. But there was a level of demanding and attention seeking, not just from men, but from women as well. Or femme-presenting people, okay, that was really scary and out of fucking line. And unfortunately, in this current day now of 2026, I am seeing that behavior resurface. I see it in my emails. I see it in my DMs. I see it in my comment sections. It's a level of demanding of attention, demanding I bend to your will, demanding that I recognize that I am dependent on one individual fan or something, that is alarming to me. And it's something that I'm assuming it has to do with the job market. I understand that in the current state of a war that Cheeto is forcing us into and impending economic collapse and things like that, that feeling out of control and being like, but I can get this YouTuber to do what I want, because I seem like someone that is open to new information and changing opinions and things like that. You're not at risk of going to jail if you say something to me, let alone, if it's, you can't do the same thing with Trump. So I get it. The same way that during lockdown, when people are literally dying of COVID, friends, neighbors, grandma next door, the same feelings are present as they are now. That level of control needing, I understand it. And so that's where I'm giving these things grace by not responding, and I'm just telling myself, the journal factory must have exploded, because that's not my responsibility in a lot of these instances, is to placate these people in any capacity. I know everyone talks about, the entitlement of Gen Z and things like that. We were promised a lot of shit, and a lot of it's not happening. And every day, actively, it feels like things are getting worse. As far as Tyler goes as well, this is another instance of that video of confessing a crush. I also think there's this concept as well. There's a crush deficit currently. Like, there's a crush drought, if you will, okay? A lot of people are dealing with, like, I don't have crushes anymore, or like anything like that. But also a crush, by definition, is often one-sided. It's not that other person's problem, unfortunately, if you have a crush on them. I've had, unfortunately, a few instances where I'm like, yeah, that's not my problem. Especially if it's a friend crush and things like that, like that's not my problem. I'm so sorry. No. I think also because maybe Wilbur is famous in this definition for this person, that this is it's not a big deal that you know, there's this public video about I have had a crush on this guy that I met one time for the last 3 years because I heard him giggle in another YouTuber's video, and it was like the world leaned in to listen is the line. And again, the whole video, I was just like, ooh, is it harmful? No, but there's red flags in that whole video. There's also the fact that Tyler is trying to move to the UK, where Wilbur is based. Now that's the UK. If I find out someone's trying to relocate to Los Angeles or California specifically for me, I'm buying a gun. This is America, baby. I don't even like guns like that. I don't have one. I will get one if I find out that piece of information. That's wild. Tyler has been trying to move to the UK for a couple of years now, okay? And as recently as 2023, Tyler posted videos saying that he had a job lined up, actually, and that something fell through, and that's why he didn't go then, or there wasn't money now, because Tyler's fundraising to get people to donate so that Tyler can move from Texas to the UK. He, in some of these videos, disclosed the job that he was supposedly getting. It was a job with Stuart Semple, who is an artist and is known for, at least that's how I became aware of Stuart Semple, for making things like The Black is Black, The Pink is Pink, a lot of like art like that, like painting materials, like to, you know, overtake Vanta Black and things like that. Apparently, Stuart Semple himself, I've seen the videos, has now come out and said there was not a job. Seemed like a nice kid, you know, was very excited, but no, there was never an actual job offer. It was, yeah, if you can make it to the UK, we can have a discussion. And Tyler was sharing that as if it was a job offer. Now, this is a very specific instance, obviously, with Tyler, because now Tyler's like, oh, you're going through things that I've posted. Yeah, that's when you become the character of the week, they go through everything. And this, I saw someone yesterday say this is an instance of where Tyler should have just like, you know, privated your whole page and then moved on for a little bit, because a lot of the videos that I'm now seeing are videos that are people just downloading from Tyler's page and then re-uploading. I overshare strategically, you know, I'll overshare in a book, you know, I overshare because this is part of my job and there's relevant information there, you know, but I also am very aware that when I overshare, that's going to be on the internet forever. There are real world consequences for oversharing. As I said, my real life abusive parent contacted me because of that video. That's a reality when you post those things. Like, there are real world consequences to sharing things like that, like when you use someone's name, like an artist's name, and then they have to be like, people are tagging them, did you offer this person a job? There's probably definitely people bothering Wilbur. I heard your giggle and the world leaned in to listen right now, you know, the same way that when I talked last year about has everyone lost their mind, still relevant question about the incidents of a stalker of Tanjiro's voice actor, and people were commenting on his social media quotes from that video of this person being removed from his meet and greet for stalking. Put it in the group chat. There have been plenty of instances where I've filmed a video and then I watch it back and I'm like, I gotta delete that. I need to workshop this again. Usually it's on TikTok. Usually it's an Instagram story. Very rarely is it a full YouTube video where I'm like, let me sleep on this a bit more. Let me do it again. Let me workshop this a bit more. Let me do it again. Let me talk to a couple people. Let me do it again. Very rarely is it a YouTube video. Or let me re-edit this. You know, let me go back in and do some more work with it. That's a thing that you have to do when you're on the internet because everything can be forever. This is one where as well, I'm like, did the journal factory explode? Because this is a nothing issue. Both of these things I'm about to talk about are nothing issues, but they're being made into big issues, and one is being used as a way to be racist to a Black author, and it's pissing me off. Hi. This weekend was 2 bookish events, BookCon in New York and the LA Festival of Books at USC here in LA. I went to the LA Festival of Books. I went for one day and I was there for a couple of hours. It's a free event. It's great. I do recommend going if you can. And it was one of the reasons that people were pissed about the BookCon dates when they were announced, because it's like, oh, so all these authors that would normally be at the LA Festival of Books, which is a free event, are going to a paid event that's 100% going to be at capacity in New York instead. So there was a lot of irritation around that. And then the video that's going around, this video has now been deleted. I was reading the comments on this and this got so racist so quickly. There's a lot of things coming out of BookCon. Mostly it's crowd related. Mostly it's line related. Either people having really bad times because there were a lot of expectations, or really good times because they didn't have any expectations and they were like, I just had fun and I did X, Y, and Z, you know. everyone's experiences are valid. One creator posted a video of her saying that she had, let me see if I have the screenshot because this video has since been deleted. It was two girls saying that they had literally the rudest interaction from their favorite author ever at BookCon while they were flipping off the camera. And so people were like, drop names or we don't want to hear it. She's walking up to go talk to Tracy Dion, who is the author of Legendborn, and she hands her a sheet, okay, and starts talking about how she likes Legendborn, okay, and Tracy is looking at the sheet and is like, okay, where do you want me to sign this on here, okay, because to her it looks like a blank sheet of paper, and then the video cuts off after that like comment.
But I was super I felt super happy.
Can you tell me how I should sign these? It looks like one big piece of paper. Is it not? Or is it?
I'm very curious if there's more footage of that because like what happened after this. Okay. But watching it, I was like, this is rude. The comment I have seen, because Tracy is a black woman. Okay. The comment I've seen is she didn't even smile. Now, I understand, as a reader myself, we can get very attached to books. We can get very attached to the written word, characters, stories that come from the author sitting in front of you. However, this again was a signing, not a meet and greet. You're not always going to get the perfect interaction from someone as well. And it's not even anything negative. It's just, oh, that's not what I was expecting. Okay. Which is valid. Her being bothered by this, her being upset, is a valid reaction. I think bringing it to the internet, it was excessive and unnecessary. And she eventually realized that because she took these videos down and posted a statement, which I'll read in a second. Especially because in some capacity, you knew that this would open Tracy up to the racist comments that she ended up getting in your comment section. The amount of people saying, I never wanted to read Legendborn, and now I know why. What? Like, is everyone spineless now? Actually, I'm so serious. It's fine to have an interaction that like is not worth it. As I mentioned earlier, there are plenty of people that think that they're going to meet me and we're going to become best friends. And sometimes we end up having a full conversation. There's been plenty of times, especially in the motorsport space, where I'm at a race with someone and, we end up talking for a bit while we're in line getting food, or we're at an event and we end up talking for a long time and they're like, no, this was great. We had like a real conversation, and then there are also times where I'm being pulled somewhere by my friends, or I'm trying to go meet someone, or I'm literally working for an event. I'm trying to document as much as I possibly can. And I got a tip on Twitter and I'm trying to go over there and I'm trying to get it. And you're going to get a shorter interaction. There's also been times where I've had someone walk up and they hand me a note and then they scurry off. And the note says that they saw me at other events and they were too anxious to come and talk to me. And so they decided that if they ever saw me again, they were going to give me a note. And so they gave me a note. It was very kind, very sweet. That happens a lot. There's drive-bys. I get people being like, hi, I love your videos. Okay, bye. Because, they've heard me talk about how awkward and anxious it can be when someone, confronts me in public. I understand, especially in this environment of a signing, wanting to have that, special interaction as well. That's not always going to happen. You're not always going to get that. I met Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. I was told it was going to be 2 seconds. They weren't even supposed to let us film. It was going to be a photo and that was it. Do you know what I did with that 2 seconds? Hey boys, we going to win this weekend? They didn't. And you know what? That's fine and dandy. Every interaction is different. Now, I'm not saying that this person that posted this doesn't have a right to feel, slighted, but if you watch the interaction and you look at Tracy, she's not trying to be dismissive or she doesn't seem to be overwhelmed. She's confused by what was handed to her. What apparently was going on, and I was shocked when I heard this because most book events I go to don't allow these, okay? They were book plates. It's a sheet of very thin, see-through stickers that authors can sign on so you don't have to carry around a stack of books. Great. Fantastic. Most events that I've been to don't allow those. It's like, no, you need something to sign or you need the book itself. My brain goes to sports scalpers being like, yeah, I've got jersey number 6 here. Can you sign this one? So they can sell it on eBay. There's been issues with people trying to resell ARCs and books and things like that lately. So I'm shocked that book plates were allowed to begin with. But a bunch of authors from BookCon have been like, yeah, people were coming around with them. And a lot of them you couldn't see with the lighting that they were in where one plate ended and one started. So what she was doing was probably trying to figure out where to sign so that it wouldn't cut off the signature, because then you waited in line to get a signature that was fucked up or not even legible for you for your book. So it's like, yeah, you may not have gotten that interaction, but she was trying to check in and lock in. And again, that video cut off. Where's the rest of that video? Was it normal after that? But she was like, oh, you loved Legendborn. Great. You know, like what happened after that? It's weird that the video just cuts off all of a sudden because you're still standing there. You have every right to feel frustrated about this interaction, because there's definitely times where someone has messaged me. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. I was so awkward. I wanted a photo. If you want a photo with me, you got to ask for it, because my worst nightmare is the phrase, if I say, do you want a photo? And you go, no, why would I want a photo? I will just let the earth swallow me whole. So I'm never going to offer to take a photo with you unless you walk up with the phone. It's like, oh, did you want it? Like, unless you walk up with it ready to go and I can visibly see that you're trying to get a photo and you're like doing like the nudge, I'm not going to ask that. And so they're having people, it's like, oh, I wanted a photo with you. It's like, I didn't get a photo with Swell Entertainment or something like that. And it's like, okay, I have no way of knowing that. You got to ask, you know. There's this other one that we're going to talk about in a second is another one where I'm like, that one's, I don't know what to tell you. We've talked about in the current modern day of publishing, the demand of traditional authors to also be content creators, to market their own books. That's a thing that is happening. That's a new thing, though. Historically, I don't know, every piece of media I grew up with was like, yeah, authors were like cold assholes. Like it's something that I grew up with. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. That's like a plot point in so many things. Like, yeah, this author that I adore is kind of an asshole. And again, I'm not saying that Tracy is an asshole. I want to make that abundantly clear. I don't know her. I'm saying Tracy like we're friends. Tracy Dion, okay? The expectation that like a book signing is going to be like a VidCon meet and greet is just not realistic. There's so many authors that I've met, whether in like a signing situation or just at an event, where I'm like, and I adore their work. I adore their work. And then I meet them and I'm like, oh, I get why you don't make public appearances now, you know? And it doesn't mean that I don't like their work. They weren't rude. They weren't toxic. They weren't a psycho. It was just like, oh, this is not where your skill lies. And that's wildly common. And I'm not even saying that Tracy doesn't have skills with talking with strangers, okay? But also BookCon, looking at those videos, I was overwhelmed. If you were waiting in line for 2 hours, that means that there was probably 2 hours of time passing of people like you, one after another, trying to have that same interaction with her. I was talking about this on stream. There's this lack of grace just in general in these instances, you know, where it's like, sometimes it's not a vindictive thing. Sometimes it's not like again, even then, watching this with a going in cold, watching this clip, I was like, that's tepid. That's neutral. This is not a rude interaction. I don't know how it was spun as rude because you didn't get what you want. I don't understand. Then we have this other one. This was at the Festival of Books. Seeing Stephanie Garber for a signing and her barely acknowledging me.
You're gonna have to keep it going, okay? I know, right?
I've done that before, yeah.
There's been a few clips like that lately. There was one, God, was it Luann? I feel like it was a housewife or something. There's an old clip of Miley Cyrus, I think, where a girl goes and does the same thing. And then as she's walking away, she goes, bitch, about Miley. In the BookCon instance, that girl was trying to like verbalize, you know, herself, how much Legendborn means to her. And in these instances, and the instance I mentioned with Miley, they both just said, hi, hand over the thing. Yeah, have a good day, you know. That's it. And now in Stephanie Garber's thing, she has an event. She's at a table with a couple other people and she is talking to someone. But also as the video clip starts, you hear one of the organizers be like, hey guys, we got to wrap it up. Like I said, it was a free event. There was a lot of people. That one's not a big deal. And I will say the comment sections on that one, a lot more measured. Notice something different between Tracy Dion and Stephanie Garber. I'm not supposed to say racism when I see racism. Like, this is the reply from the girl who posted the video of Tracy Dion. To clear things up, I brought clear book plates to have signed so I can insert them later into my books, is what the caption says. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your comments, support, and insights. I took some time to sit with this before speaking. As a Black woman, it's important to me to not tear down another Black woman. This was never about that. I understand she may have been tired or overwhelmed, and I respect that, especially because I was feeling the same thing that day. At the same time, I want to be honest about my experience. I'm not an anomaly. I'm not expecting to monopolize anyone's time, but even a small acknowledgement like a small okay can go a long way. That's the standard I believe should apply across the board. I also want to be clear, I don't support or welcome any anti-Black or hateful commentary in this space. That was never my intention in sharing this. My hope is that this opens up a conversation about treating everyone with kindness, no matter how small the interaction may seem. I have talked about a lot of people's first events being like a bookish event lately, because the new voracious pocket of readers that we are seeing post-lockdown. And so there's a lot of expectations in a lot of these things as well. For a book signing like that, and some other authors have said, we had a time slot, there was an author right after me. So it doesn't matter if the line is that long. When that time slot ends, she has to get up from that table.
When I was at BookCon, I did a panel, a post-panel signing, and a general signing back to back to back. And that was my first ever event as an author. And what I have learned from that is that when you're doing these things at an event, you need to lock the fuck in and you need to multitask like you have never multitasked before. There were a lot of times in both of my signings where my publicist would turn to me and say, you need to go faster, because I was too busy like yapping with everyone and like getting to meet everyone. But I totally get it, because there's a long ass line and you need to go through everyone. And there is an hour time limit for most of these signings. And a lot of times there is an event happening at the same table, or like another author needs to come into that table by the time that your hour is up.
This is not an unkind interaction, is my point as well. Like, kindness, regardless of how small the interaction is, sure, that was not an unkind interaction. Posted another video. And this one again, she was like, hey guys, printer paper girl. Because people were like, why did you hand her a piece of printer paper? And the whole video, again, defends Tracy, acknowledges that as a Black woman, I would never want this towards another Black woman. But then she goes on to explain that this was her first bookish event and she only met two authors, Tracy and another author she does not identify. And that this other author did the exact same thing Tracy did, which was, as she is talking about her book and her love of this book, she pauses her to ask for clarification on the book plates, the same way Tracy did. But when Tracy does, even the wording as when she is speaking of Tracy, she says, Tracy interrupted me when she interrupted me, versus this other author who's like, it was fine, we moved on, and da 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 da. She also explains more of the interaction and explains that she felt dismissed because the handler, like the person that was monitoring the line for, keeping the line moving for Tracy, took her book plate and took the next person's book plate and put it next to hers in front of Tracy, and she felt dismissed. She also says that while they took her phone from her friend was originally going to film for her, before that, they had also taken her book plates to prepare them for Tracy, which means you knew exactly what was going to happen. The line also in this that I thought was crazy is she's like, when it's from someone, it's a microaggression. When it comes from a Black woman, it's rude. In regards to not smiling at her, and like kept kind of emphasizing the smile. I'll link this down below. She brings up again, this should be, I want more from book events. This should be, you should look at this and be like, we should all want better. Again, I think this was a journal situation. I think this was a group chat situation. There's been plenty of times that I've gone into a group chat and I'm like, I just had this weird experience with so-and-so. And I've talked a lot about, instances of people being really weird and awkward or not even awkward, like dismissive. I've talked about this before for various events where people were dismissive with me. Like, okay, your badge says that, and then someone comes and one of you guys comes and recognizes me or something, or they Google me and their vibe totally shifts. Is it shitty? Yes. Do I take note of that? Absolutely. Do I tell you who those people are, even though you probably know who they are? No, because that's not that big of a deal. It's something that's not something that needs to be shared. It's something that I talk about in therapy. It's something that I write about in my journal. It's something that I talk about with friends or on stream for, months later. You posted videos of you flipping off the camera about this person, and then you posted this. She didn't fling the book plate back at you. Like, this is not a big deal? Did the journal factory explode? The Tyler thing, I'd put your account on private for a little bit and let this blow over, frankly, because the more videos people find, the worse it's getting. I'm going to wrap this up because I'll just keep talking, and this video is already way longer than I thought it was going to be. Thank you so much for watching. Reminder, I stream on Twitch. My Swell Entertainment is now available on Spotify. Reminder, check out Girly Pop Go if you'd like some more car and motorsport content. Shout out to my channel members. Thank you so much for supporting my channel memberships. As always, I show my channel memberships. I'll be going in the link down below. God, that was words. If you'd like to follow me on social media, that'll be up here, and that's going to help today. Goodbye. Okay, that was a bad wink. Wow, day's weird. Yeah, here's one. Someone's screen name is dumb. You can just do that. That's a thing you can do.